में प्रोफेसर हैं और अब उनसे बिना किसी इंट्रोडक्शन के मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि वो अपने व्याख्यान प्रारंभ करें।
Respected President Pacholi ji, distinguished speaker and learned audience. काफ़ी चीज़ आ गया and since I am also by discipline and economics, I should not also repeat what has been always said. So easily I will try to limit myself up to 19th century. I won't come to the modern period. Let me first start with the thanks to Sasiji and Nariyaji to give me opportunity to present something in this auspicious movement. ये जो दादाभाई नौरोजी का जो 200 birthday celebration है, this has been, I would say, quite timely. Now, to me, he should not be remembered only he was the prime mover for self-governance Raj, वो भी first president थे National Congress का, and then he also presided 3 Indian Congress का जो अधिवेशन हुआ था, present किया था, and he was also eminent scholars, and he had a rare combination mathematics and philosophy. And since he has philosophy and he's trained in philosophy, so that he used the mathematical skills and aptitude very well behind his work. So, I mean, but these are definitely great attributes which should be highlighted. But I would like to highlight the kind of humanity, kind of highness he brought during that time, उसी time पे, the kind of nationalistic flavor he brought through his work, that should be definitely highlighted. And specifically, he brought a coin. He tried to estimate the poverty. Why Indian economy was full of poverty. इतना impoverishment क्यों है इंडिया में? इसके पीछे कारण क्या है? ये जो motivation, that motivated him because of this humanity he inherited and inculcated in his work. And without that, I mean, if you just simply read that things and then he was simply a scholar and with the humanity करेंगे नहीं, then I think we cannot actually judge him properly. Now, to me, one of his greatest work happens to be the estimation of Indian poverty. And poverty के पीछे क्या कारण है? Drain theory. Professor Kumar ji already has talked about this. तो मैं वो जो drain theory क्या है, उसका पीछे क्या debate था? And the drain theory, the way it actually evolved that time, that becomes a flavor for Indian nationalism. वो जो flavor I try to bring this here and highlight couple of issues. उस टाइम जो डिबेट आया था, वो डिबेट को मैं हाईलाइट करने की कोशिश करेंगे.
इसको ड्रेन थ्योरी नाली की थ्योरी.
हाँ
नहीं जो बाहर निकल जाए वही ड्रेन ही बोल रहे हैं. नक्काशी होगी जो दिल्ली में मिसिंग है.
So now, I mean, I could still remember, that drain theory, what he provided, became extremely popular. जब बंगाल में I have also seen जो हमारे दादाजी से भी हम सुनते थे कि उस टाइम बंगाल में those who are trying to become freedom fighter, they used to read drain theory. That became Bible. And those who are leftists, they have to read Karl Marx read Capital, and those who are became freedom fighter, उनको drain theory पढ़ना चाहिए. So that became doctrine that time. तो वो क्या है? I will try to highlight. तो वो समझने के लिए we have to go back to at least 200 years back. 200 years back सिचुएशन क्या था? That time we were in the transition. एक feudal society था, north में Mughal empire, and what they are doing, and even हर प्रदेश में mainly जमींदार, feudal lords, they were ruining everything. कि उनका मकसद क्या उनका? They used to collect the tax whatever way they want for their own aristocracy, own luxurious life. They had no other purpose. They did not consider about the poverty, anything. Whatever you could do, whether you have place to live, whether you have foods for survive, इनका कोई मकसद था नहीं. They used to only collect. So if they are collecting anything, they want whenever they want for their own luxury, so there should not be any surplus. Arun Kumar ji was telling about the feudal mode of production was like that. ये सिर्फ production होता था for consumption. So there is no surplus. Surplus नहीं रहेगा, then how can they would invest for their own education, own health, own infrastructures, own कुछ भी नहीं कर पाएंगे. And इसीलिए their entire life were under the rule of either lord and famine. Famine जब आएगा because they don't have many money to treat for treatment, medical facility कुछ है ही नहीं. Now, and now imagine, say 19th century, last part of 19th century, famine में, I think 26 million people were died. I mean, and then that time, at least as per the census, 150 million people were living. So almost I would say 25% people were died that time. Because there is no absolutely no medical facilities. Now, usi time, now British was taking over. Now British, either definitely the trade, but now gradually they try to take over. And take over kar paya because all those feudal rulers were only for their aristocracy. They did not think of for any other else. The way British were actually entering into the economy and gradually taking over of rights over land, they did not get, because they were only concerned about how by hook and crook they have to rule, but they have to take the crown. उनका relative को खून करके, brothers, sisters, these are the regular life. So that's the reason. तो उनका जो greed था, greed खत्म होता जाता. British took this course gradually. Now when British had taken the rule, but of course their purpose क्या था? They are also trying to take the resources out of country. बोल रहे थे. But the difference क्या है? Lords, landlord, feudal lords, they are also taking surplus oil for their own consumption. But difference क्या था? There was a difference. British ने तीन काम करने का, they are forced to do at least three things. One, that they had to give some land right to the peasants. क्योंकि उनको तो रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करना था, because they came only for taking resources out of country. तो कुछ लैंड जो है उसको at least they are supposed to give land right to them, because तभी तो टैक्स कलेक्ट कर पाएंगे. If I give the land rights, then I have to take. This is one. And that I would say that should be the first step of Indian capitalism. But the way he was telling that capitalism could not help you accumulate the surplus, because all those surplus are they are trying to snatch out. But they did that. Second thing they did, they also tried to spend some money on some infrastructures. जैसे रेलवे था, क्योंकि when they are exploiting, resource exploited, they have to take it to the port. तभी तो they can ship it to their country. तो ये कुछ infrastructure करने का रुजू करना पड़ा. This is third thing which is quite important. ये जो government run करने के लिए, they need some educated masses. एक clerk चाहिए, civil servant चाहिए. कहाँ से आएगा? They cannot bring everything from Britain. But so इसीलिए थोड़ा education limited way थे, that has to be also given. इसीलिए कुछ जगह में missionary school खोला. Of course this happens to be 40. Now that actually changed little bit, at least among those people who started to get educations, उसी स्कूल में, क्योंकि what kind of changes? देखिए British now जो new education आ रहे हैं with the help of English literature, जिस literature वही है जहाँ पे Renaissance हुआ है, because Europe that time has successfully made industrial revolution, and industrial revolution के साथ Renaissance हुआ है. Renaissance cultures tried to bring the democracy. State happens to be of the people, by the people, and of the people, because in the democracy the feelings जो है, and all individuals require equal, is equality का श्लोक है, and this is what. At the same time, they have also brought scientific secularism, which is also quite good. Look at how the Galileo evolved. Galileo at that time, told that no, I mean, sun doesn't rotate. I mean, Earth is rotating, and that went against Old Testaments. Pope became quite angry on that. But ये जो culture, I mean, if I observe something scientifically, I have to say. So, I mean, if I say found and that, I have to believe that. I should not believe what my Raja, my lords have been saying. पहले क्या था? I mean, people have said that your misery is because you did some evils in the past life. इसीलिए तुम्हारा जो आज जो misery है, extensive impact है, because of that. And तुम अभी you have to serve for the Lord. You cannot go against Him. क्योंकि if you want to really become a human being next life, ये serve करना चाहिए. इस type के बातें होती हैं. And then all kind of prejudice were there. But at least ये जो Renaissance का जो thoughts try to percolate to Indian economy with this literature. ये literature के favor में जो at least educationist आया था, ये favor they try to collapse. That tried to change their attitude. So who talked about the poverty? And the poverty we had largely discussed in Europe. I mean, now, and that struck to Naoroji. Otherwise, and that's why I would say he should be considered to be the father of both rightist and leftist, because he brought through that theory, nationalism flavor, as well as poverty is basically the matter of leftist ideology. Now look at what was also happening in Bengal. Bengal में देखिए, Rammohan Ray stood up. He said that he was also educated through this kind of literature, English literature, and he said that हमारा जो impoverishment है, and the way women and other has been treated, जो social prejudice है, because एक ब्राह्मण का कितना wife था, I mean, we all knows everything, and then his husband is died, and all the wives will be also born, and these are the prejudices that were there. So with the help of this literature, now they started saying, if British who are patronizers for the Renaissance, they cannot maintain this kind of social evils. They should actually make some kind of social reform, and that was the starting point. And Rammohan he managed to convince at least some rulers, some changes in the society. Then Vidyasagar took up. Vidyasagar thought that education, if we try to open up more school through education, I think this kind of new thoughts would actually evolve. And Dadabhai Naoroji took education in Mumbai, I mean through one of the eminent institutions, I'm forgetting the name, where number of Europeans also were studying LLB. Through these discussions, he tried to inculcate Renaissance cultures. So that is, I would say, the background behind why those kind of Renaissance flavor are. Now then he took one step forward after, I would say, Rammohan and Vidyasagar. Said that misery जो extensive misery से impoverishment है, इसके पीछे जो कारण है, वो कारण होने की इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. Then he took responsibility, almost spent 25 years to collect the data, and there was no articulate data. उस टाइम डेटा क्या था? हर प्रोविंस में जो रेवेन्यू कलेक्टर था, बिकॉज उनको तो रेवेन्यू दिखाना है, इसीलिए दे यूज्ड टू कलेक्ट एटलीस्ट सम डेटा ऑन एग्रीकल्चर क्रॉप वाइज कितना प्रोडक्टिविटी है, ये सब दिखाना था, एंड उसमें कितना टैक्सेस आ रहे हैं दिखाना था. तो ही टुक scope that I have to use those data to see क्या उत्पादन हो रहा है और कितना मिनिमम कंजम्पशन चाहिए टू फॉर द सर्वाइवल, इसमें गैप क्या है. इफ आई कैन समहाउ कैलकुलेट तो हम दिखा पाएंगे इम्पोवरिशमेंट इंडिया में कितना है. So literally he traveled to all the provinces and spent months after months to get the data. And now what kind of data? Sorry, that time British used to also give some kind of data, aggregate data, and based on data वो दिखा रहे थे हमारा रेवेन्यू इतना है. So per head that time they calculated 14 sterling is a per capita income that time. I mean around 1868 or something like that. Now then say that, I mean simply if you say that on an average a per capita income, that cannot say anything. क्योंकि we are a heterogeneous economy. कुछ जगह में agriculture is better, कुछ जगह में कुछ है नहीं, and crop wise there is huge diversity. Now if I simply that कि 40 sterling per income and then हमारा consumption उससे कम है, so that means there is no misery, ये सही नहीं है. Then rather हमें हर प्रोविंस में इसीलिए जाना पड़ेगा कि कुछ प्रोविंस में उतना तो है ही नहीं प्रोडक्शन, तो उधर कैसे सर्वाइव कर पाएंगे. So that's why he tried to collect all kind of information that could be explored. Agriculture, वो जो लैंड रिकॉर्ड देख के एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी कितना है वो देखा है. एंड देन ऑल्सो लुक एट ओपिनियन से कैसे कितना अमाउंट हो रहा है, सॉल्ट सेल करके कितना हो रहा है, कुछ इंडस्ट्रियल टेक्सटाइल वगैरह ये सब सेल करके कितना हो रहा है. सी ही कलेक्टेड ऑल दोज इंफॉर्मेशन करके एंड इवन प्रोविंस वाइज सोर्स देख के देन ही कैलकुलेट समहाउ he estimated almost around 2 million sterling were exported to Britain only in 13 years from 1854 to 1868, which is enormous. And now because of that, now he managed to show all provinces in the market. Now, okay, quite interesting. Now he said that for minimum survival, what should be the minimum consumption required for individual to survive? वो भी across the province different होगा. He consulted उस टाइम एक्सपर्ट था, इमिग्रेंट जो आते थे ब्रिटिश से, पर्टिकुलरली दोज हु आर वर्किंग मिलिट्री में, उनके लिए एक डॉक्टर था, सर्जन था. He took an advice from this surgeon, मिनिमम कितना राइस फ्लावर, कितना वेजिटेबल्स, कितना मीट चाहिए फॉर द सर्वाइवल. He took all those detailed data. And then in family में he counted कितना हुए हैं, कितना children. Now he also calculated children के लिए उतना तो नहीं चाहिए, so 1/3 of the adult consumption is supposed to be considered. And then clothing के लिए कितना चाहिए. And now interesting, even lodging के लिए कितना चाहिए, he calculated everything. And since food habits also differ according हर जगह में according to the advice of the surgeons, he calculated the different conditions across the provinces. Now ये देख के now he calculated on an average 45 sterling is required for minimum survival. Now average कितना था? 40 sterling था. So at least 5 sterling is still gap. Now another thing he also said that कुछ state है at that time, now you can अभी भी वही है, true है, Professor Kumar was also telling that पंजाब and Mumbai that time वो भी उनका जो sterling per capita income was much higher than bare minimum he calculated. So I think Mumbai के that time 76 sterling something like that, and Punjab का 48 sterling something like that. But all other states were below than this bare minimum. And using this data he managed to convince people that this is the extent of misery that they are across the provinces. You cannot think of only average per capita income. And then he looked at kitna amount surplus ho raha hai. I said that around $20 million. So now, so that if we can retain this amount, हमारा the resource जो surplus accumulation surplus जो बाहर जा रहा है, that could have been spent for our agricultural production, agricultural technological changes के लिए हो सकते थे, industry के लिए भी हो सकते थे, ये नहीं हो पा रहा है. And so that was his study. So this significant amount had been created, and that was the regime for paying for this. Now, what are the main component for ये जो ज़्यादा drain हो रहे हैं? 3 component he said. Of course he himself said that कि ये मेरा drain theory is not only my brainchild. He has also given credit to many scholars. उस टाइम जो थे पीसी जोशी आया, those kind people who already contributed something in this debate. And he has also given credit to at least 3 Indian, British administrators who are much more progressive in this at that time. I think John Soar and Frederick Soar and one more person, who also said that they are much more humane. She said, we should not actually exploit so much. If we exploit so much, then we cannot actually rule our regime for long. ये उनका पीछे कारण था. But now what he said that there are 3 major regimes for this kind of surplus. एक तो था, he said that ये जो रेमिटेंस जा रहे थे, क्योंकि जो सिविल सर्वेंट ब्रिटेन से आते थे, इनके लिए रेमिटेंस, इनके लिए पेंशन, इनका all those amenities, let's say they have served only for 15 years, but और पूरे जिंदगी के लिए की जो पेंशन है, that has to go from here. ये सब, but whereas वो पेंशन सिस्टम हमारा जो सिविल सर्वेंट उसके लिए उस टाइम जाना नहीं था. So this is one of these, and then they also made to match कि ये जो exchange rate matching करने के लिए, they also said that वो जो remittance they are supposed to get at least 20% higher than the Indian civil servant. So that time, उस time even Ram Mohan Rai in 1837 he raised the issue. If you are really serious, आपको administrative जो cost है वो उसको कम होना चाहिए. कैसे कम कर पाएंगे? Indian civil servant ज़्यादा recruit करो, they will be much more economical, and since you are giving less wages to them, क्यों नहीं कर रहे? And then he kept on raising these issues. बाद में the Lord Ripon, he was much more progressive. But he raised also among others in the administration, but he could not do much. Rather क्या किया? Gradually क्या हुआ? In order to be recruited in civil servant, minimum age था 23, but वो gradually the age was reduced to 19. 19 मतलब you have to be graduated, you cannot actually complete graduation by 19. So Indian became impossible to get into the civil servant. So there was an estimate from 1850 to 1880. Only 12 civil servants were recruited from India. So this is one. So that means if you want to really reduce the recruitment. So just tell me that if I'm
5 minutes more.
Now then another thing was that the expenditure on military, because military they used to bring from the Europe. Now उस टाइम एक रूल हुआ था against 3 soldiers, Indian soldiers, there will be 1 British soldiers, but they did not follow the rule. 1888 में there was an estimate, उसमें 160,000 Indian soldiers था against 66,000 soldiers. So almost 2:1. That would have been 3:1. ये नहीं हुआ. And on top of that, जो भी उनका benefit होता था, that was. Now on top of the, apart from that, British was engaged on war and different phases. चाइना का साथ अफगान में जो वॉर हुआ है, उसमें जो ट्रूप जाएगा. So all those expenditures were taken from Indian revenue. So these people are raising that why you are actually taking resource from here. Third जो main debate आया था, ये जो extra जो amount लेके जा रहे हैं, they are saying that no, we are not taking away, we are actually investing here. आप railway जो बना रहे हैं, so we are also giving good governance to the economy, क्योंकि robbery also होता था. Now वो तो police are controlling that, so you should rather count that. नहीं, but and then they say that even जो जिस interest rate में they are giving loan वो बहुत कम. But some of those people now later on try to say that. So ये जो interest rate जो है, interest rate should not be calculated based on what interest rate going in the UK. The interest rate is calculated on what should be based on Indian economy. उतना तो interest rate तो था नहीं, still they are taking this kind of interest rate. ये तो गलत है. I mean, my son there is a economy, I think British economist, he tried to criticize brain theory provided Naoroji. Said that no, I mean you are taking good governance के लिए तो fees देना चाहिए. And ये जो loan है, and even later on, I mean I should also sorry to say, Bankim Chandra, who also wrote Banga Darshan that time, he said that drain he supported drain theory, but बोल रहे हैं कि इसके लिए poverty नहीं है. Poverty is not due to the drain. ये poverty इससे पहले भी poverty था. And rather he was telling that what kind of goods could have been exported. उस time जो हम export करते थे, traditional textile product, no one was buying those kind of things. So he rather supported this way. Now but later on many scholars have said that ये जो main जो drain theory के पीछे जो one nationalism जो फेवर था, why can't we really recruit Indian जो resource है, Indian infrastructure के पीछे, Indian industry के पीछे खर्च नहीं होगा. This was the main driving thrust given by Naoroji on that theory. Many people have tried to divert this, but later on I would say when he realized that through this negotiation, he was unable to convince British people. He took also the scope to go to Britain. British Parliament पे जाके ये सब हम आवाज उठाएंगे so that some of those things can be changed. हो नहीं पाया. Then he became desperate, and that's the reason he formed. He was instrumental behind building this international congress that time. And in 1906, you all know that he called for Swaraj. We need Swaraj. Without that, we cannot retain the amount of drain going outside. And that became the force of nationalism behind the entire freedom. So I'd like to only highlight one more resource. So the kind of nationalistic favor he tried to brought to the drain theory, that has to be recognized and highlighted. This is one. Second thing is that now we, of course, kind of things that we are also thinking right now because of the racial fights that are going on right now. One lesson we have to also learn from him. In 1893, there was a riot in Mumbai, and because of cow protection, and that was a riot took place between Hindu and Muslim that time. And that time he was in Britain, and he was member of parliament in Britain. So one group of journalists went and asked him, can you give me the reaction, because you born and brought up there in Mumbai, what could be received? He did not, he was not keen to give any answer, but after number of provocation he said, this is a lower order problem for me. Problem is more on the drain. If you can retain the drain, keep it in the economy, all the problem will be solved. I'd like to stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Maiti. I hope कि हमारे जो सारे friends हैं उन्होंने विस्तार से इसको सुना भी है. And now